right. Good morning, everyone. Oop, wrong person. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Gavin.
Hi, Kida. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to another Digital Jamaica Live. Gavin, is that your fan I'm hearing in the background? Guys, it has been really hot these days. I'm not sure what's happening, but literally I go to bed at 7, 8 o'clock these days. Okay. But the bed itself is warm, it's hot, and it takes like a couple hours. Well, it's not until about 12, 1 o'clock that the place start cooling down and it get cool. It's ridiculous. I really feel like Mafigo go ATL go bigger AC because it
Yeah,
it a get rough. But good morning,
even out in the
everyone.
country. Yeah, even out in
What's
the
that?
country where I am sometimes, out in the country, it's still hot. So.
It's still hot in the country. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. I don't know if it's climate change or what, but guys, I don't recall it being this warm. But anyways, so welcome to another Digital Jamaica Live. I'm your host, Katie Francis.
And I'm Gavin Dennis, her new co-host.
Gavin is still getting the hang of things, guys. He's still getting the hang of things. Today we have a very interesting conversation that we're gonna have with Andre Robb. Andre is the founder of Will and Tomorrow. Will and Tomorrow is a legal tech startup based in Kingston, Jamaica, focused on making will making easy, affordable, and accessible so more families can protect the ones they love. Now, guys, before I was into the digital space, Gavin, I was in the legal space. That's my background. I spent 3, 4 years studying law. My background is law. I have a law degree. That's a whole other story. But I've actually worked in the legal space. And let me tell you something. The probate process, the probate process, particularly when you don't have a will, ridiculous and long and onerous and stressful and just it's a mess. And let me tell you what one of the biggest problems are, what most people face in that process. They don't know where documents are. They can't find, there's no will. They don't know where the documents are. Them don't know which part bank accounts they are, who for name the bank account. Them can't find the title for the house. Nothing is anywhere that is accessible to anybody because granny or mama, they put it under the bed, or should they move it in a one box behind the wardrobe and something. And now she has died, unfortunately, and nobody knows where anything is, and there is no will. There's no trust. There's no plan for what should happen in the eventuality. Nothing. Now we know that nobody wants to talk about when I'm dead. No, nobody wants to talk about that. It's a scary thing to talk
Yeah,
about.
it's uncomfortable.
It
Yeah.
is, but Gavin, you're an entrepreneur. You're a serial entrepreneur, like Andre. Andre is also the owner of Brata Box. Gavin, you're a serial
Ah,
entrepreneur. You're a new parent. You have a young daughter. You're married. You have
yeah.
parents. So you and you're building wealth. You're building assets with all the companies and the startups that you're building. Imagine the government coming in and say, well, this bank account has not been claimed for X amount of time, so it's ours now, right? Or imagine something happening to you, God forbid, because guys, it's not just about death. It's also if something happened to you and you're incapacitated in some way, right? What happens? So you see that your house going to somebody where long distance cousin where you never even know exists, or auntie or siblings that you did not know exist. All of a sudden them show up on the scene and everybody grabbing and things are going. The possessions that you've worked so hard to build is gone because you had no plan. And this is a part of adulting. No, we all know adulting sucks, but it's a part of the responsibility of being an adult. Once you're once you're attaining assets, and we're going to talk about what assets are and what forms part of the estate, you need to work just as hard to protect those assets. And Andre has started this legal tech startup that he facilitates part of the process, not the entire process, but it's a really great start to the process, right? So, guys, help us welcome Andre, Robb. Andre, you ready? If you're ready, give us the thumbs up. Thumbs up. He's ready. Okay, guys, help us welcome Andre, Robb. Hi, Andre. Welcome
All
to
right,
Digital
welcome,
Jamaica
Andre.
Live.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I'm
So
excited.
before we go into wills and how having a plan can kind of give you a certain sense of peace of mind. It's like having a pension plan, right? Give you a certain peace of mind to know that your affairs are in order just in case anything happens. um Tell us about why, because you went from Brata Box to Will and Tomorrow. How did you make that leap? And then after we kind of get that background, we can go directly into what are the services that you offer in terms of helping people with estate planning.
All right, cool. So you used the term serial entrepreneur earlier, and
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean it happens in sequence. It could mean that it
right.
happens concurrent with, and that's kind of what's happening with me and Box. I have some really wonderful corporate clients that, despite my saying I'm working on something else, they're like, no, but we want these things from you. And nobody ever says no to money. So so that's kind of what's going on now. Not so much on the one-off customer facing side, and even the amount of corporate clients that we interact with is relatively small compared to when we were, you know, in our heyday trying to be the household name for gifting. But we're still there. If people want to reach out, they can reach out to us. And I think our initial value proposition of helping other Jamaican companies to have a way of getting into the hands of people that were willing to pay for their items and not like haggle them for prices and stuff like that, is still a very valid proposition. And so we continue to do that for as many people as we partner with.
And that's Brata Box, right?
Yeah. Brata
Okay,
Box.
so what is Brata Box exactly? Is that like a subscription service?
So we don't have the subscription service part. It's custom gift boxes. So
Okay.
imagine that somebody from your office is retiring because they've spent 30 years, of their life in service to your organization. You want to give them a nice gift, when they're leaving. And so you would order a gift box from us. You'd have the name of the person engraved on the cover. You'd choose some really nice items, things that they will have for a long time or things that fit their personality. And you just let us know what those things are, or we can give you some suggestions, and then you get a gift box from us. Or if you have an event, say for instance you are your company is launching a new product, and you've invited people to come to the event, and you want smaller gifts, so you ask us to help you with that, and we can give you 200 of those. That's essentially what Box is. It's corporate gifting with the point of view that Jamaican made items can make really good corporate gifts.
Okay, so how did you make the jump from Brata Box to Will and Tomorrow? Because these are
Yeah,
two
really.
very different spaces.
Yeah, I would say it wasn't really a jump because, as I said, Box is still going on. Will and Tomorrow is in
Yeah.
its sense, right? It's in its early days. I can tell you that the same kind of principles as to, oh, you want to build something that have good bones. I'm very design focused. You want to build something that is appealing to people. You have to understand what sort of emotions will we be touching on, in order to get people to take Box as a serious option for their gifting. Is it's different but very similar emotions that you're pulling on to get people to not be afraid of talking about wills and thinking about their importance. So so it wasn't necessarily a jump to say I've closed off a creative side of my brain and I'm now using more of a analytical side. No, I think even with what we're trying to do with Will and Tomorrow, it taps into an experience of creating Brotherbox allowed for Will and Tomorrow to be how it is right now. But I'll
Yeah.
say to you that at some point in 2020, I recognized that I wanted to try my hand at a different kind of business model, moving away from a reliance on physical products and into something that was a lot more scalable and that required less physical input. I didn't quite achieve that because Will and Tomorrow is not a traditional SaaS. We've chosen, and we might change this in the future. We've chosen to involve some level of service in what we offer, and by that I mean when you submit your responses to us. If you're a Will and Tomorrow customer, you submit your responses to us. Instead of getting a document immediately, we have put some sort of we've put a pause in the process that
Yeah,
allows.
Andre, we don't want you give away the process yet.
Oh,
We're gonna
Okay.
get into that. We're gonna get into that.
but
Um,
I like to wrap up my responses. So I'm basically saying that
yeah,
Will and Tomorrow is different from Brotherbox, but not very, because both of them have to deal with people's emotions and
yeah,
trying to get people to make good decisions from an emotional point of view.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, why wills though? Is there some personal connection or story there? Like, because I mean, yeah, it's. But why
And lots of
specifically
different
will?
things. Yeah, you could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could have jumped into, but wills are uh very particular and a very in because legal tech is not something you really see in the Caribbean because we tend to be stuck in the traditional ways of doing law. We have very traditional legal systems here, very traditional legal processes, and based on what we see happening, I don't know if you guys remember that thing with Bignall Law. They actually brought him before the general legal counsel because of how he was advertising. So the legal profession here is very rigid, very strict. It's canonical.
Very
So
manual.
yeah, seriously. So why go into that space, and what has the reception been in that space? Because I worked in that space and I know how these people operate. So why wills particularly, and what has the reception been like for you?
Okay, so wills, because they are such a low hanging fruit, you know.
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, really and truly, and I'm very open with this that you can write a will in any way that works for you at a particular point in time.
Hmm.
Uh, a will that is done, whether inexpensively, simply, and but done properly, is better than no will at all.
Hmm.
So it's a low hanging fruit, relatively easy to be prepared. You just need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
And then why do that is because even though it's such a low hanging fruit, the the amount of people that have equipped themselves with wills is staggeringly low.
Yep.
It is an abomination. This works in my favor for me to be hyperbolic, right? It is an abomination that so many of us don't have wills,
Yeah.
because not having wills opens such a huge can of worms,
Yeah.
for people who,
Myself
who need them.
included. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something I
oh
need to
my.
fix directly after today. Yes, I don't have one and I need to fix it.
All
Yeah.
right, so www.will
Will
and
I do?
And tomorrow.com.
I'll drop it in
It's
the
a good
chat
plug, right?
so that it's easier for you to find.
What has the reception been like in the legal space for you, though?
Yeah, so people that I know, the colleagues that work in law, people from church, who else matters? Just generally, I would say that people have been curious. That's one. they've been curious to figure out like what's happening under the hood. And we're very transparent with that because it's also part of the value proposition. You paused me earlier. So when they hear that, okay, you answer your questions online and then we get your responses, but then instead of just sending you the updated form, we pause and we read it and an attorney is involved in the process, then they're like, okay, cool. But the reception really has been, curiosity at first. And then when we explain what the process is like, you know, then who's gonna stop us? We're not doing anything to hurt
Illegal.
anyone.
Yeah.
We're actually moving the country forward because with a population that has more wills, it's less burden on the state to figure stuff out. You actually get to help families more. They get to access things that this loved one has been building up a lot sooner than if they don't have wills.
For sure.
So the general good is there. There's an argument for that. And I think once we articulate it, people who maybe never thought of the idea themselves fall back into the background and be like, okay, all the best. So the
All
reception has been encouraging actually.
right. So, guys, you see, it's not just about you going on and filling out some documents and boom, bang, you're done. There's actually an attorney involved who understands that entire process. And there's a processing happening behind the scenes to ensure that it is written in a way that is acceptable and that the will at the end of the day is valid, because just writing a will alone, just writing something on paper does not make a will valid. There's a process that you have to go through to ensure that a will is valid. One of the things that trip people up all the time, guys, is how they word a will. The words that you say in a will is what is going to be interpreted after you are gone, because you're no longer there to say those words and explain what you mean. So you have to be very careful what you say in the will. There's a case, and I remember this case from when I law school. And all it was there was a debate in the court about the word among or between. That those were the words that appeared in the will, and I think it was the man said like something was supposed to be shared among the children, and there was a war because of the word among versus the word between. So, guys, it's very serious business, and a lot can turn on a single word. So we're just gonna get right into it, guys. No disclaimer: Andre is not giving you legal advice. None of us here is giving you legal advice. That's a disclaimer that we have to make. But he does have a product, a service that can help us get started putting our affairs in order to make sure that the people that we want to get with things, and the people that we don't want to get with things don't get with things, including the government. Okay. So and it can help us in terms of taxes, because taxes is another thing that kind of reduces the value of an estate, because after the government they cut in tax and awesome, and sometimes because you don't have your affairs in order. So, guys, if you know me, I love a good presentation because I teach. So, I love a good presentation. So, I have put a little thing together for you, and Andre will be guiding us through this. So, I just did a quick Google search yesterday and just look at what are some of the headlines coming up, because we see these headlines all the time, right? Battle for dead left, right? Um, Siblings fighting over deadlift. This girl says her mother died 3 years ago. There's 7 of them, no will. And some of the siblings fighting some of the other siblings to kick them out of the house. Beer cascas and drama ensues, right? Cousins fighting over deadlift land. But what do we mean by deadlift, Andre? When Jamaicans say deadlift, what are we talking about?
I love how Jamaicans have this ability to come up with our own lingo and words for things. It's very, for us,
It's
it's
very to
like
the
it's
point,
a no
though.
brainer. It's a no brainer, right? But that's because we're inside of the bubble. We know the tea. Dead left is anything that was owned by the person when they're alive.
Mhm.
Know that they've died. It's now left back, right? So
Right.
that's breaking up the words.
Yeah, so
But then
literally
now
where you're dead, leave.
What do you leave after you're dead?
I after
Pretty
it.
much.
Pretty much. Okay.
And then now we have another word for that, which is your estate.
Your
You know,
estate. And we're gonna
so
get into what is an estate. But
pretty
there are
okay.
certain myths, Andre,
Yeah.
Gavin, around uh, what do we mean by estate? And one of the biggest one is that when we talk about estate, you think Royal Palm Estate with big house and palm trees and big car and multiple bank offshore bank accounts
And that is for rich people.
and it's for rich, yeah, because that's the kind of thing that rich people have, right? But me and you have an estate. We would well, you
Mhm.
see, I am not a serial entrepreneur like Angie and Gavin. For them, they might have bigger estates than I do, but we all do have possessions that we own that
Mhm.
will form a part of our estate. So Andre, explain to us what is an estate.
Yeah, so I like this definition that you grabbed. It's very straight to the point, especially for the people who will be willing to more customers. So
Yeah.
like if you are the CEO of one of the large banks, coming to Will and tomorrow to pay less than 100 US to do a will isn't a wise decision for you, because it's likely that your estate is going to be comprised of a lot of high value assets and assets that are held in maybe very unique ways. But simply for the people who come to Will and tomorrow, your estate is anything that you own. You know, you took your money and you bought it. It's now a possession, or it's now money that you have in your bank account.
Mhm.
Then it is part of your estate. So we're talking about the number of bank accounts that you have, all the institutions that you have them at, the things that you've bought with the money while you were living to make sure that your life is comfortable. So the things in your house, whether or not you have a house that you own, the car that you drive, your PlayStation, you know,
Your PlayStation.
yeah, your laptop, things like that. Anything that you own is part of your estate. And then it's also the kinds of accounts that you open with other institutions. Did you go to any one of these, like stock exchange houses? I'm not advertising anyone, but if you
Mhm.
went to any one of them and you opened a stock account and then you participated in an IPO, for instance, and
Mhm.
then you decided to just leave those IPO shares in your stock account, then those stocks are part of your estate because you
Yeah.
spent money on them, and the idea is that they will appreciate in value.
Mhm.
So the collective grouping of everything that you own, from as little bit as your bank account, like a lot of people that just starting out, they really only have a bank account right now and a car. You still have an estate that upon your passing can
Mhm.
be bequeathed to somebody that you choose.
Oh, okay.
So so Andre, so here's one of the things that I think is a little bit puzzling to me. So there's a general myth that estate planning is for rich people, right? And then we've seen over the years, even the things that are not in the media, how families fight over land, like literally fight and kill each other over land and that type of thing.
Mm.
So why is it that, at least in your opinion, why is it that this thing that causes so much problems for people, why is it that more people don't push to get a will in place, even the siblings and such, because of just how much stress and problems it typically causes? And that's the kind of thing that people tend to spend on things that will remove stress and problems from their lives, convenience and stuff. So why is there such a low take up, in your opinion, for people to have
Yeah,
wills?
that's a good question.
If I had the answer to that question, like no, 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 the answer to that question, I'd be a lot richer right now. Because when we sat down and we started working on Will and Tomorrow, we're like, oh, this is gonna fly off the shelf. We know once we clearly explain the value, people are just gonna be like, give us all your money and make a will
Yeah, you
for us.
simplify the process.
We have, but at the same time, we're coming up against a huge cultural barrier, right?
Yeah.
And it's twofold. One is what you just explained. People do tend to think that they don't have enough for them to stop what they're doing and make a will right now.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing with wills is that it's very redemptive. You can make a will right now, and with us or with anybody who's worth their salt, you include a solid residuary clause, and the things that you don't own right now but you will eventually own, you would have
Oh,
set up a kind of a system for what happens with those things. So things
Oh,
that you don't own right now, and you said that
mhm.
you want to give 50% of your residuary
a future
estate
asset.
of
Okay.
future
Mhm.
assets, then your current
Okay.
will that you make right now can speak to those things. But we don't know that. So that's one part. The two parts are coming up against the cultural holding or idea that it's for rich people and that what you have right now is not enough for you to stop and make a will. And then the other part is the stigma around what making a will means. A lot of time people think that for some reason, as soon as you make the will, you're
You're gonna
carving
did.
out death by yourself. And there is no evidence to suggest
Yeah,
that.
but we are a
Mm,
superstitious people, but it's the
Yeah.
same thing with investments. You remember
mm.
one time young people weren't talking about IPOs and investments and stock exchange because it was
Mm-mm.
something rich people do. But thanks to people like Kalila and earning season, people like that, the more we understand about what investments are and how that can generate wealth, is the more we come to appreciate what it can do for us. And young people these days want money and they want wealth. So it's kind of the same thing, and hopefully we get past that. But moving on into, okay, so now that we understand that your estate is any possession that you have can form part of your estate, possession that you have now, possession that you will acquire in the future, assets that you will acquire in the future can form part of. If that asset is a husband or a wife, your will have to change. You have to do up a new will, but that's for a later
Hmm.
conversation. If you acquire a new asset that's a husband or a wife, that old will is kaput. You have to redo the will. Okay, but
Ah.
what is
Mm,
estate planning? So we know
mhm.
what forms estate, but what do we mean when we say we're making a plan for our estate?
I think it's good for people to know that a will is a part of an estate plan.
It's part of the estate
Yeah,
plan,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's one of the ways that you go about estate planning. Another
Yeah.
thing that you can do for estate planning is to have an insurance policy that says what happens with the insurance policy, right? Who
Mhm.
gets the
The
payout,
The
beneficiaries.
the
beneficiaries, yeah.
beneficiaries are, and who gets
Mhm.
exactly. Other things that you can do for your estate plan is to like make a note, like write something, write letters to your family members, and talk about things that may not necessarily fall within the will, but you still want people to understand. Other things that you can do for estate planning would be to engage a financial advisor and talk
Mhm.
about what is the best way for me to organize the assets that I own so that my
Mhm.
family has very little tax liability when the time comes.
Oh,
So
that's important.
estate planning is thinking about the various parts of your estate and what you can do to make sure that it is as seamless as possible
Mhm.
to share this with people that you love. And making a will is a low-hanging fruit because it's easy to do, it's inexpensive, and it is the most popular part of the estate planning
Process, yeah.
process. But there are other things that you can do. You can choose to create a power of attorney, and give somebody, if you're older or you are just more conscious of becoming incapacitated, then you can give somebody that you trust
Or
the
senile.
power.
Mama becoming a
Yeah,
senile.
somebody's
Yeah.
becoming older in age, they are prone to dementia or Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
Before they get to that point, when they still have capacity, that's
Mhm.
when you talk to them about providing
So, so
will support.
Andre, before we move on, right? So, the will is the whole thing that they document, and I saw on the site it's about getting two witnesses to sign. So what if someone just takes a piece of paper, because they don't know they don't know that they need witnesses, so they take some paper and they write that, they write their instructions. I want this person to get this child to get this, I want this person to get X, and they sign it, right?
Mhm.
Does that written instruction have any kind of weight?
Unfortunately, that's not a will.
Not
But
valid.
yeah, but here's the thing. that can help. You know, if you have loving family members and all they need to do is to get some idea of what you want, then
Notice
writing that
the
thing.
preface,
y-
loving
Yeah,
family.
So,
yeah.
so,
Because the
so,
difference
so
between that process, Gavin, and
mhm,
the will is that you're leaving a lot up to the discretion of people. You know, you're
mhm,
not giving, you wouldn't have created a legally binding document that someone who is not in the midst, like the executor, can now say that these instructions were given and they
Yeah,
were duly prepared, and so we have to abide by them. What you described a while ago with somebody writing down and thinking that
mhm.
them signing it themselves without witnesses or without putting it in the format is going to compel their family members, it just won't.
But what
yeah,
if they, what if it's a case where the family members, they're not disputing because they know that you are the one that wrote this, they know your handwriting, maybe they were there, so they're not disputing what you have just written and signed yourself. Does the fact that they are not disputing it means that the court or the legal system will not dispute it?
no, there are laws that guide how these things work. There's intestacy laws
Mhm,
that operates. There's the administrator general laws. Well, the administrator general operate under intestacy laws, and the probate
Mhm,
court. It's the courts who get to decide. So what
mhm,
you just said, Gavin, is when a
mhm,
person dies intestate. So you can write it down on a piece of paper and say,
mhm,
yeah, this is how I want this thing to be. But if it's not considered a valid will under the law, then you are considered to have died intestate. And when you die intestate, which means without a will or a trust or any kind of legally binding document, then it's the court who decides who gets what and what
mhm.
happens during that process. And this is when the stress becomes, and this is the thing, guys. We all love our family members. We all think they're fantastic human beings. But you see, when things that I forget, when all step on the line, when land up on the line, when money in a bank
So,
come up on the line, hey, you'll be
so, so,
surprised.
so here's the other thing now. So when someone makes a will, right?
Yeah.
They have their witnesses, and this is from just general
Before you
scenarios.
go there, we're gonna talk about what makes a will valid, because I think that's what you're
Ah,
getting at. So let's move on to. But what happens to your kids, Andre? So you have young children,
mhm,
minors,
mhm,
and you die, or you have young grandkids, minors, and you die, and mama they want to leave one little piece of something for little Gavin, because he's our favorite grandson, and she don't want to leave
always.
him a little thing, right? What happens in a situation, or this is directly with parents though, but what happens in
mhm.
that kind of situation, Andre? What how does the court operate in a situation like that?
Yeah, so the I would say, well, I don't have to say, I can tell you that a big cohort, not the majority though, but the second runner-up of people who make wills with Will and Tomorrow are also parents of minors. And that's because when you say to someone that you get to do two things with a will if you have a minor child, it becomes a very compelling purchase for them, and it has to do with dying intestate without a will and having minor children. Put your children into this bigger pool of people that the Administrator General's office has to look out for, and they have to go through that process of identifying your assets, administering your estate, just so that your children can benefit.
Yeah.
And so essentially, think about it, something that you could correct by simply making a will, you chose not to. And so in the end, you are hoping that the default system, which is what you just explained, KDL, the Administrator General's Department, having a process is going to do justice for your children. It seems to me like something that every parent should be very interested in correcting themselves, because it will be saving so much of a headache for your children.
Especially if you are not together, mom and dad are not together, you don't live in the same household, dad is probably married to somebody else, mom is probably married to somebody else, that can even complicate a situation even more. Because there was a story that I found while I was researching this, where the grandmother and the aunt, the grandmother who's the mother of the father, and his sister was literally in war with the mother of the child over assets that the father left behind because he didn't have a will, right? So it's, especially if you're not married to each other, mom dad not married to each other, it becomes especially important in a situation like that, that you make sure that both of you are putting a plan in place for your children in any eventuality. Because guys, it doesn't have to be just death. It could be a car accident, some kind of terminal illness, or some kind of serious illness that incapacitates you for a while. You can't work. How are you taking care of your children in a situation like that? Andre talked about power of attorney, putting a power of attorney together. So if something happens to you and you can no longer think for yourself, right? The power of attorney says this person is allowed to access my bank accounts, to pay my bills, to take care of my kids in this particular way. So that's a part of the whole estate planning as well. But let's quickly get into what makes a will valid, Andre. Gavin asked that earlier. What are some
Yeah.
of the things that must be present that you look out for at Will and Tomorrow to ensure that your clients are getting a valid will?
Yeah, so all the things that we have here, one, an audio recording, and wills are based on the land that they're in, right? So different lands in the United States, different states have
Yeah,
different rules around what needs to happen for a will to be valid. So we're
yeah,
talking about the Jamaican context because that's where we've gotten started.
yeah,
So for Jamaica, even though technology is so rampant, you can't leave an audio recording and say that that is your will. This has
yeah.
to be something that is
Yeah.
written. And even though your will with Will and Tomorrow is going to be typed, the signature page requires you to write in some things. Like we ask you to just write in your
Physically.
name again physically. You have to get
Yeah,
a pen.
physical.
You have to get a
Have
We
to
don't
pen
reach
print.
the
ink.
e with the
Yeah.
e-signature thing. It don't
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
have
reach
to
yeah.
us
print,
yet.
print and sign.
Print and
Definitely,
sign.
definitely. You have to print and sign in order for that to be accepted. So it must be in writing, must be written plainly and clearly is also important because the will must be understood in by all the parties involved. So let's talk about the fact that you need two executors at least. You can have more. These are the people that you're asking to act on your behalf to make sure that the things that you have plainly written out are carried out. So these are two people that you trust, that you know. You know, they may be contemporaries of yours, or they could be younger, they could be related to you, they could also be beneficiaries in the will. But you need to ask two people if they are willing to serve as executors. And they need to understand what it is that you've asked
What
them to carry
yeah.
out. So that's part of writing it plainly, right?
And that's
Because
Um,
separate from the
it's
witnesses.
important that
Separate from the
part,
witnesses.
guys. Don't skip part, that executor part, not because you have a favorite sister where you like Ayana this, so when you not grow up you think she's executor. No, 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 no. An executorship is a huge responsibility, because after you are gone, these are the persons who are going to have to care, because it doesn't, having a will doesn't negate the probate process, it just makes the probate process a lot easier.
Correct.
But it's a long process, and they're going to have to stick it through, and they're going to have to process your estate or be a part of the processing of your estate after it done, which means that they have to go get lawyer, they have to go court multiple times. So you have to get people who are, one, in good standing, not just, just somebody, but people who have sense. Yes, in good standing. So in certain instances, people just avoid family altogether. You have attorneys who offer that kind of service. You have even companies that offer that kind of service, where all that's all they do. They provide executorship over estates or whatever, and they carry out the process. They have a fiduciary responsibility. That's another legal term, which means if they mess with your money, they can go jail, or they can get fined a lot of money. And it separates the family from the process, because then the process can get very emotional, and people can get very emotional because, oh, so because I shared it, you left for a big house, so you get a bigger piece of the land. And at first your beneficiaries couldn't be your executors. That was a law for a very long time, and then that changed. But still, even now, you'll find attorneys discouraging you from having a beneficiary who's also an executor, because it can complicate.
Conflict of interest. Yeah.
Yeah, it can, even though the laws have changed.
Yeah.
But still, make sure that the person you are thinking of leaving in charge of processing your will is a sensible smarty that can be objective, and that will honor your wishes after you are gone. That's
What
extremely
about
important. I can't tell you how much time these things go bad, because I did my friend, and me and I did friend from long time, and then the friend go, but you did.
what about these two things? What about storing the will in terms of where do you store this will and who do you tell about it outside of the people that have signed?
Nobody. Not tell
So,
nobody.
so
I
look at this
have an
situation, right?
Angela,
opinion.
how do
I have
you
an
feel
Yeah.
about
opinion.
that?
You want me to go
If,
now?
Yeah, how you feel about
No,
not
no.
telling anybody?
Gavin has
so
a story. I want him
yeah.
to
So
tell
the
me.
thing is, let's say you leave things in the will, and none of them, the executors are not beneficiaries, right? You leave it for your brother, your sister, right? Do you tell them that you've created a will and you've had it witnessed? Because when you die, right, someone has to go and take this will wherever it is that you've stored it.
Mhm.
So do you tell people where you've stored it? And do you also tell the beneficiaries that they are in your will? Because then, based on what we've seen with just how cruel people can be, when you tell the beneficiaries, you can also put yourself at risk that they will try to take you out earlier so they can get the assets. So do you keep it to yourself? And if you're keeping the will to yourself, is it that it's best to store it with a lawyer? Do you keep it at home? Where should people keep their wills?
Okay. All right. So I like to tell people that you know your family situation best, and you know if it is that, putting out certain information is not going to be in your best interest.
Yes.
So always review suggestions or things that are shared like in a forum like this, with the point of view that, hey, this is how my family is set up. So everything that we've
Yes,
said, will not necessarily apply to all situations.
for sure.
No, once you have a duly prepared will and it has been signed, and your executors have been asked to serve as executors, they would know that you now have a will. So I believe that at least your executors should know that you have a
Yeah.
will, because they're the ones who need to actually access the document once you are gone, and start the process of letting people know that these are the instructions, and take it through the probate system. So that's one. And then another option that's available to you is that at the Registrar General's department, you have the option of registering your will as a public
Mhm.
document. Now, once you do that, it becomes part of the public record, but it also means that nobody can change it or do anything malicious with it. And that's a service that's available to you. And it's also something that Will and Tomorrow also helps you to do. So those are two things. And then no,
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, for
and then no
sure. Yeah.
storing,
Except that it's public.
storing.
Except that it's public, but I like that it can be
Well,
registered.
nobody's going down there to go
Yeah.
pull up a will and
That's
look at
it.
it ready.
That's it. It's just that if they wanted to, they would be able
They
to.
could. Yeah.
And then now in terms of storing it, we send you a folder. I wish I had one at arm's length. Let me see if there's one in my drawer.
While Andre is looking for that though, guys, you can also, if you hire a company to be the executors for you. I'm not sure if there's such a company in Jamaica, and maybe some lawyers do it.
Lawyers do it, but we don't have an entirely dedicated executor
Dedicated.
service.
Okay. In some other countries they do. I know lawyers here who do it. You can keep the will, you can have your lawyer keep the will in a safe place. Some lawyers actually have safes, big
Yeah.
What about
metal
copies?
iron safes, that they keep these important documents in. But guys, you don't have to register the will with the Registrar General Department, but
No.
it is highly encouraged that you do register the will, because then they have a copy of it, and that it cannot be changed once the will is done, unless
Only by
you
you.
go back and
Yeah.
resubmit
A
something.
new
Because
and
guys,
a more
remember, when you get
recent.
married, your will has to change, that because the old will that you have before marriage no longer applies after you're married.
Mhm.
So there are certain situations where you will have to change your will. Okay. But once you have the will and it's valid and you register it, it becomes a public record. The government said this is what she's saying, so this way I work with, right? So you can do that, and these are just extra protections that you can put on a will, because a will, even though it's good, it's not ironclad, but these are extra protections that you can build up around the will, which is why we're going to go on to talk about why having a will is not enough. So let's just cycle through quickly. Andre
Good.
gives you a document. You get it in a nice little package and document. You know them excitement, customer service have to look nice and thing. All right. So let's quickly go through benefits, Andre, of having a valid will. Why is
I
it
mean,
so important?
I don't think I have to convince Gavin, but seeing that Gavin is on the call, we're interacting. He says he doesn't have a will, and he's asking a lot of these questions. It feels like the kind of thought process that one of our regular customers go through. Like, why should I, even though in my opinion, $90 is not a lot of money to do something as big as what the will does, it might be a financial commitment for some people.
Yes.
But when we get to this part where we talk about having a will eliminates a lot of what if your family doesn't want to object to the written piece of paper. It's very subjective, there's no guarantees. And with a will, what you do is you have something that speaks for you when you're not there. It's written down, and it's something that can be taken to court. That's a saying, you can take this to court. It can be. Then too, in terms of reducing family conflict, that's too often the situation in Jamaica, where people get
Constantly.
people get up in arms over other people's things, something I can never understand, but it
Even get
happens.
killed, it can become very
I
dangerous.
remember that story, when Will and Tomorrow was just starting. There was somebody insane in Trelawney, actually, and we understood that that was a part of why she ended up losing her life. Her husband's death and her stepson, that kind of a thing. It reduces the family conflict, because anybody will have sense knows, say, even if you don't agree with the will, but the will is properly done, you're going to have a very difficult time getting your own way. And if they know that, then why try to manipulate the system, Why try to take somebody out of the equation if it means that even if they're out of the equation, it will not fall on you? So those are some of the things that having a will does. It removes a lot of the subjectivity from the process, and it allows for the exact thing that the person has written to be carried out.
Right, because in a probate process, what the court is most interested in is what was apart from what the law says, because there are laws that says who should get what in the eventuality of a death, especially if the person dies intestate without a will. And what the law is also concerned with outside of that is what were your wishes? What was the wishes of the person who died? What did they want to happen after they die? So having a will clearly expresses your wishes, but a will is just part of estate planning. Remember that having a will is just one part. Having a trust is even more ironclad than a will, because then you're removing family members altogether. You have these trustees, and you're supposed to operate in the best interest, but
Mhm.
trustees are under a fiduciary duty again that family members are not necessarily under. This is now a legal duty that a trustee now has, and breach of that duty is like a breach of contract. They can get into a whole lot of problems, serious legal problems for that kind of breach. So if you want to next level it, you can create a trust, and in your will you can say in your will that you want to create a trust, and this is how you want that trust to go, and that can be in your will. So your will can be what starts the trust. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
um and also part of the estate planning, guys, is to make sure that your financial plans are in order, your financial, all your documentations in order. You make a list of all your assets. Where are they? who can have access to it? Do you have a personal banker? Okay, make sure your personal banker know that on eventuality, mama, sister, uncle, auntie, they can have access to it. You maybe not want to put their name on it yet, but make sure that all of this is written on your place. You don't have to tell nobody. You don't have to tell nobody nothing. You don't have to tell nobody nothing where it there. You don't have to tell nobody nothing where it there. But you can put something in place where in an eventuality processes start happening. You can automate the process just in case something starts happens to you. Things kick into gear, and there's an automatic process because you would have set up yourself and have your estate put together. But Andre, tell us what are, so apart from creating a will, making sure that your will is in good order, making sure that, all your ducks are in a row and everything is laid out, what other services do you offer at Will and Tomorrow?
All right, so Will and Tomorrow is really about estate planning. So we start off with making the will, low hanging fruit, and many people will have a need for that service. But then to our same online platform or application can allow you to give us information for creating a power of attorney. That is something that's coming on stream. We so those are the two main things, and then we also allow you to register your will at the RGD, which we talked about earlier. I want to also point out that a lot of times we will consume North American content and we think that the very same thing that they talk about in this episode of Friends is the very same thing we can get out here. You can't really have a living will, is another term. In Jamaica, you have to use a power of attorney to do very specific things. So just figure out what works for you in your local context. And for anything else that is beyond our scope, we always advise people to directly communicate with an attorney. If you come to Will and Tomorrow and because we have a pre-qualifying questionnaire, right? We ask you some things. And if you fail at one of the questions, for instance, if the majority of your assets are not in Jamaica, you will fail to become one of our customers, unless you want to create one will for your Jamaican assets and another will for your assets outside of Jamaica, which is something that a lot of people do. But essentially, I'm saying that depending on your personal circumstance, you will be able to benefit from what we have created, or we will encourage you. We actively encourage people, and we have a list of people that we refer people to talk to an attorney directly, because at the end of the day, we don't necessarily want to. We're not interested in serving people, and it's not a proper way that you've been served. So those are the reasons why we make sure that when you come to Will and Tomorrow, the product that you get at the end of the day is meant for you. So you go to our website now, we have an affiliate program. So if you or somebody that has like an online audience, you can sign up to be an affiliate. You get paid a percentage of every will that is created via your affiliate link. You also get bonuses for doing X number of wills. Then we also have group programs. So if you work somewhere, if you're in HR and you want to encourage your staff to prepare their wills, then we can give you a group package. We come in and we have an info session, quite similar to the one that we just had, where we talk about myths, we debunk things, and we make the process clear. So those two things I wanted you to know about, in terms of having the group package that you can access, and you just ask us to come in and talk to your group. And also, if it is that you want to find another way to add to your income, then you can become an affiliate as well. Is it better to make one will for two countries or two separate wills? I'm going to respond to this question by saying, if you have one will, then it's going to favor the country that you make the will in and the assets in that country. You will have a more protracted process of getting access to the things outside of of the country that you made the will, but it
Yeah.
is possible for that will to also serve. So it is
Yeah.
more,
Another,
it's a smoother process if you have a will in the United States and a will in Jamaica, and they each.
especially, yeah, bear in mind too, guys, that property as estate, land, you having a will in Jamaica talking about what happens to a property in the US may not be valid, because that's a matter of jurisdiction. When it comes to land matters, it's jurisdictional, right? Because taxes are going to apply, and taxes are jurisdictional, and a lot of other things will apply that are a matter of the laws of that land. And so having property, land, homes, whatever, in another country, you may not, I don't know for absolute certain, but I don't think you can put that in a will here and have it be binding over there.
Mhm.
You can say to your family members, say this is your wishes or desires or whatever, but it may not be binding in another country where when it comes to taxes on property and land and sub, that is very jurisdictional. It may not be applicable. So I think it makes sense that you have a will set up over there that will be according to the laws of their land and whatever, and a will set up here where you have assets here, etc. All
And I
right.
just want to add to that really quickly that a will can be broken up. So if you have a document and there are parts of it that is no longer, no longer works. So for instance, to leave something to somebody, but that person died before you died,
Yeah,
you never got to
invalid.
change it. That part of it becomes something that the courts will not be able to act on. But the
Yeah,
other things that you have said will be acted on. So don't worry that your will has to be in the most perfect state and you
no.
have to be obsessed about
And you can always
always
change it.
updating it. You can update it and you can change it, but just know that having one to start off is a lot better than saying, "Oh, I'm going to wait
Absolutely.
until I have this," or "Oh, I'm going to wait until X date."
And don't be an Aretha Franklin that there is no that I think they find 7 different handwritten things that they're counting wills. I know the IRS come in and go, actually, we got monies in this too, right? Don't do that. So remember, it's the last one that you wrote that would be the one
Yes,
that they will
the
use.
last will and
The
testament.
last one, and that's based on the date that was written, or that they can assume it was written. So guys, just make sure that you get your affairs in order. As I said, adulting can be difficult, it's rough, but we work very hard for the little thing what we have, and we'll have to make sure that we're protecting them, because what we did not talk about today is that government have claims on some of your assets as well, especially like money in bank accounts and stuff like that. So making sure that the money goes towards who exactly you want it to go towards, or the local, because even the furniture in your house, make sure say the furniture go to the local whosoever. And it doesn't have to be family, it could be your church, right? It could be somebody like in your old age who was very good to you, your family member gone body business and forget you, and the local lady next door was taking care of you, and you want to make sure that you leave her something to show your appreciation, and you know why your family messing that up. All that in place. If your sister mama getting senile, or daddy getting senile, or uncle aunties things are happening with them, their health failing, get that will done. Even when you're young and healthy, you're gonna bashment party, people still say bashment, age myself there. But even when you're young and you're healthy and you're in your prime, make a will, because guys, God forbid, anything can happen.
Listen, I need to get
Andre,
it done.
thank you so much, guys. So go over to Will and tomorrow, get your will started. It's not just them telling you off to type something, they have legal people behind the scenes who are vetting your document to make sure that you're doing it the right way, and that you're very clear and precise, and that your will is valid, because that's important. You can have 5 million will, if none of them valid, then it's like you never have any. Andre, any last words from you before we go? Because we have our next guest here.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Gavin, thank you, Kadia, for this morning. Before I came on to this call, I'll tell you really quickly. I had a meeting with one of my team members who is leading the updated application, the software part of things, and it brought me to tears, literal tears, because we're working on a big improvement to the process that we hope everyone will like. So I just encourage people to think about it, and if after thinking about it, you decide that you want to make a will, you can jump on our website, start a live chat with us, and we'll answer whatever questions you have. We have people that we've been talking to for months before they actually become customers, and we don't mind. We do want you to make your will more soon than that, but we're here to support you in any way. So thank you for the time, and hope to see you guys on the inside of Willan tomorrow soon.
All
For
right.
sure. I'm going to
Enjoy.
take my little self, go over there. I said, my laptop.
Yes,
I want
need
my
to.
sister to
Need to.
have my podcast mic because that's how that's it for me. But, anyways,
And your bank account.
yeah.
Don't stop going, Kadia. Stop going.
Just so then see my bank account to be my future assets.
All right, my dear.
All right, Andre, thank you
Thank you for
so
this
much.
morning.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
man.
All right.
Take care. Guys,
Likewise.
we hope you would have learned something. This is what I call experiential tech, guys. When we make technology work for us, we see that there's a problem, we use technology to solve that problem. And this is what Andre has done. And now we're getting into the legal tech space. And then next week, we're talking to Christopher Gale, who is also a big proponent of experiential tech. And he's going to talk about how he's using tech to solve some of the perennial problems and how he goes about running a tech startup in Jamaica, where we know, say, funding difficult, the laws don't exist, what about problems and stress. But before next week, guys, we have another guest coming up. Glenn is here, and Glenn is going to be talking to us about Wendy's Direct, right? Glenn is the president of the Jamaica Games Developer Society, and they have a program called Wendy's Direct. That Glenn, if you're ready, give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, Glenn, I think he makes a few games. He has
Yeah,
made a few games so far.
he's
Yeah,
the
so
owner of Sprite Ranch.
game
We're gonna talk
developer.
to him. Glenn, if you're ready, give me a thumbs up. I see him in the. I'm not sure if he's hearing me. Oh, yes, thumbs up. Okay, great. So, guys, welcome, Glenn.
Hi.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, morning, Glenn.
Morning.
So Glenn has been waiting a little bit. We went a little bit overboard. We got too excited about wills and assets, Glenn.
No problem. I was listening from the back room and it was really interesting.
Yes,
And
it is.
sort out some things myself, right?
Audio
Glenn,
doesn't
we're not
sound
hearing
so
you so
good.
clearly. What's happening?
Yeah.
Interesting. How about now? Or not there? All right, no problem.
It seems like it's more of an internet speed issue.
Yeah, I
The
think
video
it's the
quality
internet.
is
Glenn, do
choppy.
us a favor. I'm gonna remove it from the stream. Log out and log back in because you're just cracking up, and I think that's something to do. Just log out and log back in. Okay, guys, while Glenn is doing that, let's take a look. So Glenn is the owner of Sprite Ranch, and Sprite Ranch Studios is a game developer, small boutique game development studio in Jamaica. He has several, I think he has, I don't say several, I think he has some games on Google Play. And guys, we've seen the growth of gaming culture in the Caribbean, right? Anime Con just passed a couple weeks ago. They had a really fantastic turnout. So we're getting more into gaming culture because, guys, it's big money right across the
It's So it's actually surprisingly big money because I think recently T-Pain and some other big artists announced that they make more money from playing games
from
and
Twitch
streaming it.
streaming. Yeah,
Yes,
from
streaming the
streaming.
games than music,
Yeah,
than their
yeah.
music career. So
I saw that interview.
it's
It's
surprisingly big
ridiculous.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn is back. Let's see if this is any better.
All right. Testing 1, 2.
The audio is okay, but the video
Audio,
is
yeah, it's not that
video
great. But
is-
let's go ahead
Okay.
anyway, Glenn. So tell us a little bit about what the Wendy's Direct project is and what is the the rationale behind the project.
Okay, so I'm gonna hope that my internet cooperates with me. So Windows Direct is supposed to be a independent showcase, right, of just all the projects that are coming out of the Caribbean. I want it to be an inaugural annual event and have people submitting their games, projects, trailers for the projects, and after review of collect everything in one showcase. Right? Did you get all that,
So-
Gavin?
So it's an annual project. I was hearing that it's an annual project, and you'd want for them to submit their games, the games
Yeah,
that they've developed.
yeah, their trailers and anything that they've been working on for the year. The idea is to have one kind of flagship showcase to kind of show people that there is talent here. We're operating in this space,
Ah,
and this is how we
okay.
can plant our
So it's
flag.
really to highlight the game developers
Yes,
from
yes,
the Caribbean game
yes,
developers.
yes, from the Caribbean specifically, as well as the diaspora. So we're pretty much want to when you sign up that where you call home. We've gotten some entries from people representing Guadeloupe, other people representing DR. Pretty
Okay.
cool.
So no matter where they are in the world, as long as they're from the Caribbean, they are
Hmm.
welcome to submit their projects.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, it's a good highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
So
So one of the reasons we started this event is outside of planting the flag is over the course of the past year, we've been seeing a lot of digital events pop up, right, around different themes. So you have things like the Wholesome Direct, which is specifically about games that are not necessarily super
Hold
violent.
on.
They're about
Glenn,
those
maybe
games.
let's see if you turn off your video, let's see if it will improve the audio
All right.
because it's
yeah, you're breaking up. We're
let's
not
see.
really hearing you very well. Yeah.
All right. Is this the name so?
Let's
Barely.
let's continue and see if we
Yeah.
can.
All right. All right. All right. All right. So I'm saying that over the past 2 years, there has been a rise in digital events, such as the Wholesome Direct, which is a showcase of projects specifically looking at non-violent games, right? So all of the cozy
Okay.
games and stuff like Animal Crossing and things like that, as well
So
as
non-violent games.
yeah, so games for that is one showcase. There are other
Okay.
showcases that have popped up where people
Mhm.
submit their trailers, and it's basically a continuous hype reel on that kind of content. So we got thinking and said, why don't we do something like that for the Caribbean, which is the Wendy's Direct.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So the Windies Direct it's for non-violent games from people who are both in and outside the Caribbean but are Caribbean nationals. So
Well, okay, I'm sorry, I think my connection might have thrown that wrench there.
Yeah,
So
we're not hearing you as clearly as we want to, Glenn. I'm not
and this is
sure
a
what's.
form for
Yeah,
them to apply.
right. So
yeah,
this is the form.
mm,
Um,
it's for any game from any person from the Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I mentioned non-violent, I was speaking of another example of a showcase that has
Ah,
happened.
okay. So all games are allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So what the form says is that when selecting, they're looking for projects that are adequate, that they feel adequately represent the region's diverse talents and unique perspectives in either gameplay design and or team composition. Last week we kind of touched on Street Boys and the development of that game, the creation of that game, and that's very Jamaican.
Mhm.
You look at Street Boys, and you see that that's very Jamaican. But Glenn, is there some money prizes here, or it's just a showcase? Do they get? Is there like a winner versus non-winner, and does the winner get a prize, or how does that work?
All right. So there's no prize right now for the first event.
There's
It is
there's no what?
selected. There's no prize, monetary prize,
There's no
There's no
prize.
monetary prize.
No
Okay.
prize.
right? But we are working to see if we can get our sponsorship started out so we can at least get some eyeballs from industry players on those
Mhm.
projects. So we're selecting the best 10, right, being included.
But what was that but part?
We're selecting the best 10. Oh,
The best
sorry,
10.
The
best
best 10
10.
will be
Best
selected.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're working in the background to align ourselves with certain partners to ensure that those projects get the kind of attention that they need and get boosted.
Okay. He's working in the background to do what, Gavin?
To align with partners so that those projects can get the attention.
Can get funding. Okay, that's awesome. I think that's even better than a cash prize. Okay. Okay, so this is the inaugural project, Glenn. Is this something that will become an annual thing? So every year you're going to be doing this kind of showcase.
That is the intent. We're based on the quality and the number of entries we see and how everything plays out for this initial one. We want this to turn into an annual thing, a flagship event, to kind of be something for all the local devs to kind of aspire to going forward.
Okay, so guys, hear what you see, because the quality of the audio and stuff is not so good. We're gonna have a one-on-one with Glenn, giving us some more information about Wendy's Direct, and we're gonna put that out on our digital Jamaica platforms. So make sure that you're following us on our platforms on Twitter, Digital Jamaica, on Instagram, digital.jamaica, and on LinkedIn. And as soon as that video is out, we're gonna put it out so you guys can have more information. Glenn, I know that there's a wrap-up date, a submission date for when all submissions need to be in. What's that date?
September 9th.
September
End of
9th.
day,
At
by end of day.
midnight. Yeah,
Midnight on the 9th of September 2022. If you are a small indie game developer, and you have some games and you want to be a part of the showcase and you want to become more attractive to investors and all that good stuff, make sure that you sign up for this program. I think it's an amazing thing. As I said, we wanted to talk to Glenn some more about the growing gaming culture, but we may have to have Glenn on for a show by himself. So guys, yeah, look out for that clip from us with Glenn over on our other channels, and visit on Twitter. It's the Jamaica. Let me put this back up again for you guys so you can see where to go and find some more information. On Twitter, it's the Jamaica Game Developer Society, JGDS _ official. And there's a lot more information on that page that you can find. You can get involved in some of the other things that they're doing. They always have courses. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a Discord group. Yes, there it is, a Discord channel. So if you're a small developer, you make games, etc., and you want to become a part of this community that is supportive, join the Jamaica Gamer Developer Society. Glenn, can you stay on? We're gonna talk to you afterwards. All right, guys. So that's all we have for the show today. Gavin, what did you think? I learned quite a few things today.
So I need to get the will done because it's too easy. It's too easy now, and to not have it. So yeah, and I need to get one for myself, and I need to get my mother to also do it.
I need to get one for my dad, because yesterday my father have this all boss. And daddy, if you're watching, I love you. My father have this all boss. And even this old boss and him panka with this old boss. And yesterday the old boss decided that when he pressed, I don't know if he pressed the pedal or what happened, and it was going to reverse. It was in park, and it was going to reverse and drag him along with it, almost drag him under it. And I got a message from my father like, I almost died. Say what now? And he was like, oh, well, it didn't happen. I live another day, and I'm over here panicking like, what did he just say? So yeah, definitely getting a will from my dad. And you know what, also accompanies a will, guys, and this is for another day, life insurance. Because I had to bury my brother recently, and let me tell you, it was I did not realize how expensive funerals were, but it was well past $400,000. Okay, it was absolutely ridiculous, guys. And life insurance can help you, because it made the grieving process harder. It made the grieving process a lot heavier, because now you're going to have to think of, okay, where am I going to find this money? And you want to give them the best send off possible, and it complicates the entire process and makes the grieving process harder. So along with putting your will together, a part of that estate planning is make sure that you have life insurance and that your family members are not burdened with what happens after you die, and burial and all of that other stuff.
Fighting over it.
It's a stress, because now you have to deal with coroners, you have to deal with police and all sort of thing, and that is stressful enough. The burial process, it doesn't have to be once you have life insurance in place and all that good stuff. So that's a part of the adulting, guys. It sucks and nobody likes doing it. It's a scam, But while we're here and we have to do it, let's make sure that we're doing it correctly. I just want to say before we go, big up Shanika, Shan Zen Zen. Guys, if you're not following the Shan Zen Zen YouTube channel, please go and follow it. She's doing some amazing things. She's a philanthropist. No, Shanika not rich. By far, she's not rich. But what she has done is she has used her YouTube channel to bring light to some of the issues that are happening with farmers in rural Jamaica. She has used the money that she has earned from her YouTube channel to start programs and build farms and houses, and know she's doing a big health fair thing come Saturday. This is what we like to see. You know, when we talk about influencers and people who are becoming influencers in the space and using your influence for good, Shanika exemplifies this. And of course, she was one of our people to watch nominees, because we have a good eye for the people who are actually doing the things in the space and not just people who are talking. But that's for another show. Yes, I did just throw some words out there, but yes, people are actually doing the work, not just talking. So big up Shanika, and I will leave the closing to you, Gavin. You get to close off today.
So, right, thanks everyone for joining. It was a really good session. The fact that it's pushing me to get a will done also. That's how important it is. Remember, you don't have to be rich to start thinking about your will. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and get my mother to do it. So please start to have those type of conversations with your parents and with yourself and your spouses and partners and such, so that people have to kill themselves, kill each other and fight over whatever. You're dead left. So yeah, so thanks for joining with us today, and follow us and stay tuned for more.
For sure. Make sure you're listening to the podcast. And guys, the website, we'll have a new fancy looking website.
Everything TheDigitalJamaica.com
about Digital Jamaica is on the website. Please to go and have a look, read our blog, check out the podcast. You're already here on the live show. And that's some of the ways that you can help Digital Jamaica grow. This is our new website. Everything that we do is on the site, all the things. And if you want to collaborate with us, if you have a story you want to share, if you're doing something innovative, interested in the tech or digital space, and you want a spot to appear on the show, get in touch with us or sign up for our newsletter, guys. We're starting back up our newsletter. And we're gonna have exclusive content in that newsletter. Like, for instance, coming up, we're gonna have a mini email course about becoming visible in the digital space and what it takes to do that. So you can look out for that. Make sure that you're signing up for the newsletter. Go to our website, thedigitalJamaica.com, sign up for the newsletter. And you can get a lot more information, a lot more resources happening over there in our newsletter, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. We'll have Christopher Gale talking about running a startup in Jamaica, a tech startup in Jamaica, and about creating technology to solve problems that are perennial problems that Jamaicans have faced for a very long time without any resolution, and how tech can help us resolve some of those issues. So I will see you guys next week.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right.